So you want to tell me that Ugandan security officials had the knowledge that Kizza Besigye was walking around in Nairobi, particularly in the Riverside area, dangerously armed. Not only were they aware of this, they trailed him and then arrested him in Kenya and transported him across the border, only to be presented before a Ugandan military court. All of this without the Kenyan government knowing what the Ugandan sleuths were up to? Wow. So what else are they doing in this country that we may not be aware of? In fact, might there be any other foreign security officials or mercenaries, for that matter, wandering about here like children in a plantation looking to pick guavas to eat? Further, assuming that this information may have some merit, isn't this a Kenyan territorial issue? A dangerously armed man is in the country. Isn't that a matter for us to deal with? To be specific, seeing as he was supposedly found somewhere around Riverside in Nairobi, shouldn't that be a matter for the Kilimani Police Division to deal with? I imagine it would be the Kilimani Division police officers to conduct the investigation and the arrest, present him in a Kenyan court, and then inform Uganda that they're holding their national. Folks, this whole incident smells off. And this is because this is not the first incident of this nature that we've witnessed in the country. You see, exactly 1 month ago, the Kenyan government abandoned the principle of non-refoulement when 4 Turkish nationals were abducted and deported back to their country. The Foreign Affairs Ministry says this was at the request of the Turkish government for the 4 individuals who had been recognized by the UN as refugees. To boot, Kenya adopted a Pontius Pilate stance, saying they did not want to get involved in the affairs of another country. That's not all. Remember Ethiopian national Samson Tekla Michael, who was abducted and has been missing in this country for 3 years now? And don't forget that in August 2022, or later in that year, Pakistani journalist Ashad Sharif fled his country, sought refuge in Kenya, following death threats over his reporting on corruption. How wrong he was. He was shot and killed in Kajiado County. These incidents do not bode well for Kenya's territorial integrity. They erode our standing in the eyes of the international community. All of this, by the way, even as Kenyans themselves get abducted within their own country. If we're not careful, Kenya could soon be known as the abduction capital of the world. That's my take.
A few days ago, Ugandan opposition leader was arrested in Nairobi in possession of arms, and he was transported across the border to Uganda to be presented to court. And that poses the question, is that not an Kenyan territorial issue? Because if he was arrested in Nairobi armed, why was he transported across the border, yet he was supposed to be taken to court? Then the Ugandan was to be reported that there is an issue with your citizen here. So this man was arrested in Nairobi Riverside as he was to attend the book launch of Martha Karua. So this is not the first issue which we have seen happening in the borders of Kenya. Remember, an Ethiopian national who was abducted 3 years ago and has never been found up to date. That poses the question, how safe are we as Kenyans? Apart from that, remember there is those 4 Turkish citizens who were in Kenya as refugees because they were escaping from Turkey. But what happened is that they were arrested and deported back, and the Kenyan defended themselves, saying that they don't want to enter into other issues relating to other nations. So that's not only that. There's this other Pakistan news reporter who was reporting on corruption, and he came to Kenya as a refugee or seeking asylum. But what happened in Kenya is that he was trailed to Kajiado and shot dead. So, as Yvonne is saying, do you think that Kenya is the abduction capital of the world, or it is something which is rising on the go? We have seen a lot of abductions, especially with police who are roaming around during demonstration with masked faces, ununiformed and they're with gun, and this is they are the one who are arresting people. We have seen since the height of Gen Z, there have been a lot of people who have been arrested and some who are even missing. That begs the question, are we safe as Kenyans? Make sure you comment down there below.